Hi guys, thanks for tuning in to another episode of Nugget's News. Well, another huge news week. There's plenty of green across the board. I hope you're all making money and having some great trades. Satoshi's vision up 100%. We're going to talk about what headlines drove that, as well as all the geopolitical news. We do welcome plenty of new subscribers as we pass 45,000. So thanks to everyone that's hit that subscribe button and that notification bell so you don't miss out on our videos. This week was gaming week. These are 5 of the best projects I think in the gaming space. Didn't get a lot of views either, which tells me that this area is a little bit unloved. I think there's a few hidden gems amongst these, and members know which ones of those I've invested in. Members also get 2 extra videos a week, and I did my introduction to margin trading. I know this is something that interests a lot of you. How to margin trade. It really has almost been a license to print money lately if you're trading these large cap coins when they have these big percentage breakdowns. So you can make money on the way up and on the way down once you get your head around this sort of stuff, guys. So head over to nuggetsnews.com.au if you do want to join us. And we do have a meetup in Sydney. So free for everyone this Tuesday. Head over to our Facebook page for details on that meetup. So I hope to see a few of our subscribers and a few of our members in Sydney this week. So into the local news now, and all talk is about Australia dropping interest rates. Now, before the election, we've been told how strong the economy is. Just a week after, they're talking about either 2 or 3 interest rate cuts because houses, people can no longer afford them. We're all indebted, and they need to make it easier for you to borrow that $1 million mortgage to go further into debt because houses are unaffordable. So this is where the great debate lays. Should we let houses unwind and come back to historically affordable levels, or should we be making it easier for people to go into a lifetime of debt? Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. However, even though I know people are saying, well, this is great, my mortgage is going to get cheaper, this is true, but it can go a lot lower still. So people laugh when we spoke about negative interest rates or negative interest rate mortgages, and yet here they are in the real world, only 4 basis points or so here. But if we have another economic downturn, we've spoken about deeply negative interest rates, this isn't necessarily a good thing, guys. They want to make it even reward you for going into $1 million of debt to get that huge mortgage or buy that car that you can't really afford because they're so desperate for you to borrow more from that future because the debt has to be kicked down the road. We have to continuously increase that debt or everything comes undone. So Germany has been one of the strongest economies in the EU, but unemployment had a huge spike, biggest in 5 years there. So again, these are the warning signs. We know global manufacturing is slowing down. The trade wars have been in the headlines. Is this another little indication that even Europe is facing some issues? Now, the spread between the Italian and German bond hit its highest in, I think, 5 years or so, but Italy are now facing these huge debt issues and penalties because they kicked the can down the road. And I think this is a country that's a lot closer to adopting Bitcoin in a meaningful way, even if it's just the citizens, because of all the issues they face there. Now, the yellow vests, we know, dominate in France with those protests every week, but over to Belgium now, and one by one we're going to see more countries that are unhappy with taxes, inequality. This sort of stuff is just spreading, and I think it could come to Australia if we have QE, money printing, interest rates, and they look after those that own all the assets that are going to benefit, and the average guy on the street knows that he's just going to fall further behind in that wealth inequality. But over to the US now, and it looks like Google is going under the microscope. So Facebook obviously, had their time and had to defend all their actions. But more and more, we're seeing these big tech companies that make so much money from farming our data coming under the microscope. And they really have led the stock market in a lot of ways, and now they're under pressure. Slowing economy, plunging stocks, and forcing the Fed's hand. So the 2 things we've been focused on all year for the US markets have been, what are the Fed going to do? And we know that they backflipped from raising rates to backing off and talking about ending their quantitative tightening. But the trade war is obviously the other thing. So they're in a really awkward position here. 25% of Americans now using debt just to pay for food, for example. So the consumer is indebted. They can't really raise interest rates in this scenario. But the first... So the hint they get of inflation, that is the nightmare scenario for central banks. If they're forced to raise interest rates to try and keep inflation under wraps at a time when all the consumers are heavily indebted. So it's this US-China trade war which has caused markets to really crash lately. But Mike Pence coming out and saying that they can more than double these tariffs on China. So this is all now, beating the chest. It's all about Western supremacy, the US versus China. Who's going to be the dominant economy, the dominant military, the world leader? And look, Trump is firing from the hip. China is going to fire back. I spoke about rare earth metals. The US is dependent on China for 80% of their medicines. We know how many people are taking that, those medications every day in the US. So they're going to be hit, every angle they can. It's normally the end user, the small guy that loses out in these trade wars. And during the week, what a world we live in where Trump does a tweet like this that can move markets. And I know we laugh about manipulation in crypto when something goes up or down 10 or 20% on a tweet, but even if the stock market only drops 1%, you have to realize, guys, that is trillions of dollars of derivatives, options, market positions, okay? So when Trump starts tweeting this stuff, people are getting really worried. And who's he going to come after next? And, we got this headline straight after that, it's India is next in line to be imposed tariffs on. So he's talking about Mexico and the drug war and all this stuff. But guys, the war on drugs is totally moronic. As a pharmacist, I just wish we could have some forward-thinking, open-minded policies and get more education around all this sort of thing, because it's such a waste of taxpayer dollars and putting people in prison and all this sort of crap. So look, you guys know what I think of all that. But in terms of the markets, look, money flooded into bonds. They've been really bid up there. People want the safety of US Treasury bonds in these times of crisis. It's also really interesting that with all this talk of manufacturing and trade slowing down, oil's fallen off a cliff. $66 a couple of weeks ago, right down to 53. So this is a sign that everyone thinks that shipping, transport, all this stuff is going to be slowing down if these trade wars heat up. And if we have a look at the actual stock market, you guys know that last year I said that I don't think this is the crash that everyone's sort of worried about, and I'd be a buyer of this dip. It's had a huge V-shaped recovery. But now there are a lot of concerns. If this doesn't get fixed anytime soon, Trump keeps firing tariffs on everyone. In what scenario does this really end well? And what are the Fed going to do? Unless they print more money, that's going to spread to the stock market, lower interest rates again. I don't really see how this can rocket to new all-time highs anytime soon. But let me know what you guys think of that below. The other one is gold. So I continually speak about this. I think it's going to have its day in the sun long term when people realize that central banks have been bluffing this whole time. But it's been a rough ride for gold. I know, guys, if you're like me, and we've been waiting ever since the GFC, I guess, for gold to really have its day in the sun. In terms of being super bearish and worrying about all this sort of stuff, I hate to sort of play that angle, and I'd rather look for a positive spin. And this was a fantastic little Australian company that had a huge week. So let's just type in Linus there. They're a rare earths exporter, and when you're going to have China cracking down, where are you going to get your rare earth metals from? And this company's jumped from under $2 to over $3 there. So I guess my message is there's always opportunities. Don't be super bearish and live in fear. Try and think 2 or 3 steps ahead. What are the second order effects, the implications when we read these headlines? So I was touched on gold. Silver is another one. It acts, with a bit of beta to Bitcoin's to gold. It tends to outperform, and speculative shorts are reaching, pretty high levels. And just like with Bitcoin and crypto, I speak about the longs and shorts. This can be a good gauge of sentiment, and sometimes as a contrarian, it's time to think about taking the other side of this trade and getting long silver for the traders of you out there. But into the crypto news now, and the G20 nations are looking to introduce a register for all the world's crypto exchanges. This is probably a light-handed touch compared to some of the crackdowns that they're probably going to try in the future. Even India readying their regulations. We know that India banned crypto. It'd be great to see them bring that back, but everyone just wants to sort of feel that they're in control of the crypto movement, all that money laundering and all that sort of thing. So let's see what comes from those G20 meetings. I did tweet that India is one of those countries that need it the most. This figure shocked me. 63,000 people come out of extreme poverty every day, and they're the people that are unbanked. They could benefit from Bitcoin the most. So let's hope that India gets that regulation across the line. Over to the US, and we know that Kik are now crowdfunding this fight against the SEC. So this is going to be a landmark case for ICOs globally, really, as a lot of regulators look to the US and what the SEC are doing. So they've raised plenty of money. This thing could definitely drag on for a while, though. Now, one of the best performers this week, and one of the coins that I regularly tell members I love trading this one, is Iota. Now, they've taken a big step towards decentralization. You guys have probably read the news, but if you followed my work for the last 2 years, I've been saying as soon as they can remove the coordinator nodes, this is big news for Iota, and it certainly had a big jump of price, and I know a few of you guys got in on that trade as well. Another one that I think is flying under the radar is Nexus. So if you've read their latest Tritium paper, they're doing some really cool things. So a bit of a hidden gem that I wanted to tweet about and throw in here for you guys that do watch all the video. I think Nexus is going to surprise people this year, and it is one that I own. Now, Ripple is one that I like to try and give you guys a bit of an unbiased view. I know a lot of people think I don't like Ripple, but that is because I don't see a lot of banks using the XRP token just yet. And if we get more announcements like this, where banks are actually using XRP, that's positive. But again, if we read the headlines, these guys aren't using XRapid. They're using X-Current, and I don't think this solution is actually having the payment processors use the XRP token. They're using the technology. So guys, let me know in the thoughts below. Is XRP, is it going to be able to compete with all these bank coins and these other settlement ledgers that are coming out? The other thing that I'm always mindful of is that overhead supply. So 1 billion XRP coming out of escrow. We know that's slow and steady, but it's constantly going to be coming into supply versus Bitcoin and Litecoin and others that are getting more and more scarce as that halvening approaches. Now, another video I did recently for members over 2 months ago now was about all these EOS rumors. And at the time I said, the rumors sound like it's a social media platform of some type, and this is one of those things that's probably going to run up in price into the event. Now, EOS did hit a 10-month high ahead of this big announcement, and announcement about announcements. In crypto, you do have to shake your head, but there was other great news this week. So Coinbase Earn added EOS. We can go into that course, earn $10 of EOS. EOS is coming to Tether. Other way around. And finally, we had EOS topping the rankings for China. Now, I did let the members know that I think this is going to be a sell the news event, but it's had such a good run lately, and we did see a drop from over $8 into the low 7s, I believe. So well done to anyone that's made money on the way up, and if you got out, because there's always too much excitement getting priced in to these sort of events. But look, I think EOS is heading in the right direction longer term, coming out with it sounds like more of a Twitter competitor, combination with Steam, called Voice. So I'm looking forward to trialing this one, and I want to try and get Ross from EOSphere on the show this week to talk about everything else that happened during this Block 1 event. Now, speaking of China and rankings, NEO is due for an upgrade as soon as June. So I thought that NEO was probably 18 months, 2 years away from any meaningful upgrades. They've had their issues with the price of gas and that sort of thing, but NEO is one that's still down a lot more than a lot of the other sort of top 10, 20 coins percentage-wise. Plenty of trading opportunities here. It's a large cap coin that gets plenty of volume. It's got that China factor about it. So yeah, it is one of the smaller speculative coins I still own long term, but I feel that this one is going to be great to trade again in the near future. Now, Binance Coin is up 550% in 2019, so most profitable. Now, you guys know we did our deep dive, our fundamental analysis, and recommended this one before the IEO craze. But recently, I'm really starting to think, have they got a finger in too many pies, trying to do too much? They are launching margin trading. To be honest, that is probably going to give that coin even more of a value. So we have to continue to ride this out. I own this one long term, and if it's in an uptrend, guys, keep sitting on it. But there's going to come a point where Binance starts to lose market share. The first sign we saw here was 29 countries not being able to access their DEX. So how decentralized is that? Not really. But yeah, as long as CZ is dominating, he's got a huge following, people are using Binance. Binance coin's going to continue to go up. But if you got in at around that $4 mark and we're nearly at $40, it's always sensible to take some profits, guys. Let the rest run, sure, but whenever you've done, a 10x, 1,000% gain, you're silly not to take some chips off the table. Okay, so Satoshi's vision, fake rumors, rumors in China that Craig Wright moved the original Genesis block coins, and that CZ had tweeted an apology and all this sort of stuff. So a huge run up in price this week. It has actually been one of the best performing assets in May. I did tweet that I thought this one was a buy as a trade, not as an investment, guys. I copped a lot of heat for this, but some of you have now doubled or tripled your money. So I guess this is a debate whether or not you should trade things you don't really believe in, or is that crossing the line, your ethics and your morals? I'm not sure, guys, but if I can double or triple my Bitcoin holdings by trading another altcoin, I guess that's the way that I see it. But let me know what you guys think in the thoughts below. Now, another coin that has been doing great things, this is DeFi Pulse. We get our rankings for all the decentralized finance movement, is a little Aussie company that rebranded from Haven called Synthetics. Now, I presented this one as one of the best 2 projects I thought at EdCon, and it was awesome to get this feedback from one of our members that this was their first investment that's done a 10x. So 1,000% gain. If you invested $1,000 in this one, when I recommended it after EdCon, you've now made $10,000. So that is awesome to see. Synthetics are going to let you short coins, create synthetic positions, double and triple tokens. I'll continue to cover them in the future. In terms of Ethereum here, we've got Ernst & Young open sourcing their privacy Nightfall technology on Ethereum. So this is fantastic to see. The argument early on was that all these companies are going to use private forks like Quorum, and they're not going to use the original Ethereum chain. And I guess my argument has always been the value comes from the open source nature of this. So it's great to see even big companies aligning with that ethos and open sourcing that code there. Now, the Bitcoin difficulty reached all-time highs. So remember last year when everyone was talking about the death spiral and mining was going to crash? Well, the latest difficulty increase was a big one, and the Bitcoin network has never been stronger, more secure. That hash rate has reached record highs again. People want to make money mining and securing the network. Now, one of the rumors that I've heard going around is that if there's any investment products on Wall Street, they're going to be required to hold clean coins. And what that means is coins that have been freshly mined, that don't have a transaction history. Because if you don't know where a coin's come from, you don't know if it was involved in crime or something, even if it was 10 hops ago. So rumors are coming out now that the Grayscale investment product is gobbling up 21% of all newly mined Bitcoin. So can you imagine a situation after the halvening where there's less new Bitcoins being mined? If the ETF needs to get those mined coins, other investment products, I'm not sure if this is a certainty, but it would certainly be scooping up a huge amount of the new supply. We've got a lot of people hodling. That can make it really scarce to actually buy Bitcoin on exchanges and really push up the price. So into the technical analysis. Look, guys, last week I've been talking about May 30 as this turning point date, and it's always funny. We have people saying that technical analysis doesn't work and time cycles don't work. Again, this pulled back to the absolute day here, and we've had a pretty strong bounce. So what we've been looking at is these periods where we've had a bit of divergence, where the RSI is getting a bit weaker, but price is running up, and we look for these sell-offs. But as long as they're getting bought here, right into the moving averages, there's been nothing to really worry about. We've been in an uptrend. Now, the level that we don't want to lose now is the daily close below these candles here. So 8,200 down to about 7,800 here on these moving averages. If we were to lose those, it's going to be pretty downwards, I would say, until June 16, and that's when we'd want that 6,000 number to come back into play. So look, taking a further step out again, we know we've been overbought on that weekly RSI. This is a reversal doji here, guys. Let's see how this closes in the next 12 hours or so. But at some point, it's perfectly healthy and normal for Bitcoin to cool off. But what we're waiting to see is how quickly the buyers step in. And if we have a look at this monthly chart, look at this. It's just huge increasing volume, huge green candles here. we know that this can extend further. We can get a lot more overbought on the monthly chart, and historically on the weekly, we've got up to 85 a couple of times and 90 a couple of times on that weekly RSI. And at the moment, we're only sitting at 77. So Bitcoin can do its thing. No one predicted Bitcoin was going to over 9,000 just a few weeks ago. So I think there's going to be plenty of buyers wanting to step in and buy this dip, but let me know what you guys think below. The thing that I'm more interested in is whether Bitcoin goes sideways, up or down, chops around. I think the trades to be had coming up are on the altcoins, and I'm watching this Bitcoin dominance chart like a hawk. If this breaks down again, I'm waiting to see whether or not we want to short these altcoins that have had a big run to make money, or that money's going to rotate into altcoins. And if they break out to new highs, I'm getting long on margin trading. I want to make money to the upside on those large cap coins that we can margin trade. So if you do want to learn how to margin trade, guys, head over to nuggetsnews.com.au. Keeping you guys ahead of the markets. We've got a great community that's now surpassed 1,300 people. I hope you guys have enjoyed this video. If you have, smash that like button, subscribe if you haven't already, share these videos around, and thanks for tuning in, guys. Cheers.